the afternoon keynote. As many of you probably know, we spent last weekend in the building immediately to the north of here, the Kaplan Institute, running the Chicago location for TADHack Global, or the Telecom Application Developers Hackathon. This is the 6th year we've run it here at IIT, and we're going to spend the next hour with Alan Quayle, who is the founder of TADHack and the founder of TAD Summit, for Meet the Global TADHack Winners and TADHack Global Reveal. So, Alan, bring it on.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Warren. And just a shout out to Warren and to Carol for all their hard work in helping us run such successful TADHack Chicagos for all those years. So I'm going to shut up and I'm going to ask if Will can come on down and get yourself set up. His partner for the hack, Dechen, she's hiding in the audience. So this is going to be like a Where's Waldo. So it's up to you to try and find out where his partner is hiding. What I'll just preface this is Will turned up at TADHack at, what was it, 12:30 on Sunday, and said, "Oh, I'm here for the hackathon." And we're like, "Okay, you do realize the pitches start at 2 p.m. Yeah, okay. Now, we did put him at the end, so he had a little bit more time to get everything wrapped up. But I think this is a great demonstration of the power of the platforms that have been created. So he hacked on VoIP Innovations, and in just a couple of hours, he was able to get his hack working. So with that, I'll hand over to Will. Do you want to use this, or do you want to use the handheld? Okay, over to you, Will.
Hi, my name is Will Brickner. Let me get my thing set up here. Having some issues. Okay. All right. So this is my first time doing it. Okay, so a little bit about me. My name is Will Brickner. I'm really interested in math, physics, computer science. This is like a particle simulation I wrote a few years ago. Basically, like all points tug on other points. You know, kind of like super beautiful patterns emerge from really simple rules, right? I think that's something that I think is super fascinating, right? I kind of work pretty heavily in the startup space. I have this one startup called 3D Snapshot. It's basically like 15 different cameras on an arc that'll take a picture all at the same time, and then you can turn that into an animation dynamically. And then it's for like an event product. It's kind of fun to operate. Designed and built the whole thing, wrote all the software, right? So also I do like open source software, right? So different small projects ranging kind of from genomics utilities to image processing libraries. Right now I'm working on like novel kind of neural network architectures with like exciting applications in machine learning that is kind of like a different paradigm than what exists currently. And I also, in my free time, will build tech stacks for startups, which I've done several times, right? So there's also some more computational art and some physical simulations that I've created in the last couple of years that I think are really interesting. This one is like a 5-dimensional structure generated by an iterative complex function. So it exists in 5-dimensional space, and you can interpolate around in the space and project it into 2 dimensions, and that's what you see before you, right? Is that projection, which seems to animate in these beautiful ways, but that's just a quirk of the way that you're moving around the 2-dimensional plane in the 5-dimensional space. And there's some more kind of interesting geometric patterns that you can generate that are like nice to look at, but there's nothing really interesting going on there. This is an interesting art piece that I did just for fun. It's like 60,000 New York Times front pages, all in 2 minutes. I scraped the web store for New York Times and put them all together. It's really interesting. You can see like transition to color. You can see where they digitalize stuff. Everything becomes perfectly standard and rigid and never moves. So yeah, I mean, it should be pretty clear by now that I'm a genius. I hope it's clear to you as it is to me. Sometimes, when I'm explaining something technical, I begin to glow and levitate. Space distorts around me. And yet it's a curse. I work really hard on a project, and it seems no one in my life understands why it's so fascinating and why it's so cool, right? So how can I find others like me? Where in the world can I find arrogant men in tech who are too smart to communicate with normal humans? I wonder. So now I turn to you, the audience. Are you a misunderstood genius? are you to your coworkers as a human being is to a dog? Does nobody understand your terrifying genius? Are they all just jealous of your boundless intellect? Is that you? So anyway, I hope you are, because I've invented the final solution recently at TADHack Hackathon, and I present it to you. It's TechBuddy. You talk to other geniuses for free. You say, what? I don't understand. So you call the TechBuddy Genius Hotline, and you get matched with a hot single genius, releasing your technical stress. So more on the network topology, because as we're all geniuses, this is what we're interested in. So you can see, let me find my laser pointer. You can see over here, you have the geniuses, and they communicate with some mysterious intermediate piece of infrastructure that I don't understand. And then that in turn communicates with VoIP innovations or API days, which in turn will forward me requests that correspond to calls and actions that occur within those calls. And then I can send back responses, and that changes how the call proceeds, right? So it's kind of an interesting architecture. It took me a little bit for me to wrap my head around it and the ways in which I'd have to do something, because you always have to be responding to a request from a call, right? So maybe it kind of leads to these interesting things. But I believe you can implement anything that any process that you'd like could be implemented this way. So it's kind of an interesting architecture, right? And you say, okay, easy. So geniuses call in, and I just match them together, right? And, well, it gets a little more complicated, right? Because all your geniuses should have similar, all the geniuses that are paired together should have very similar skill levels. Otherwise, it could lead to technical frustration, which is certainly kind of a bad experience, right? So, I mean, in this diagram here, you see that we have a bunch of geniuses, 6 of them, and these geniuses are paired because they have a skill level of 3. These are paired because they have a skill level of 4, and these are paired because they're close and they're the best match, right? You have 7 and 8 over here, these kind of rolled in, and you didn't know when these were gonna arrive, right? So you say, okay, well, this is easy, but again, not so easy, right? Because your calls are coming in at random times. Your skill levels are random. They're probably normally distributed, but they're random, right? And you can't predict them. And you also can't find a perfect match quickly. And long wait times may also cause technical frustration, or maybe users just hang up and no one uses your service, right? So you need to be able to quickly find matches, even if they're not perfect. And you need a good kind of fair way to do that. So I was thinking, this sounds kind of familiar, right? This is exactly the problem that Uber has, right? So, or a very similar problem to what Uber has. When you call an Uber, you say, hey, I'm here. This is my rating, essentially, and I need a trip to this other place. And there are also drivers nearby, and there's all of that data, right? And they need to match these two together. In the same way that I need to pair geniuses who have different skill levels, they need to pair drivers and riders who have different ratings on their app, and also, but of course, they have a much more complicated, harder job because they have to think about, well, where's this driver already headed? Can I put them on the trip for this pool? So that's a nightmare, right? So thankfully, this is a lot simpler, and I could do this in a couple hours, right? So my initial solution was just to say, when the user first connects, then assume we can find an exact match for a certain amount of time, right? For like 30 seconds, try to find an exact match. And when new people come in, try to look, hey, are they an exact match for what I'm looking for that skill level? And if they are, put them together and you're done. You don't worry about them anymore, right? But then after a certain amount of time, your standards drop. And you're like, okay, I don't care who I talk to. I just need to talk to somebody, otherwise I'm going to hang up the phone, right? So then you try to identify a close match in this way. And you look for who is absolutely closest to me out of all of the people, but this doesn't really pay attention to how long people have been waiting, right? So like, let's say... Actually, my slides afterwards will illustrate this point. But basically, there are a couple of big issues with this approach, and it's not going to perform well, especially if you have lots of users using your service, right? So the shape of the perfect solution, whatever it might be, should balance the prioritization of long-waiting callers with the value of exact matches for new callers, right? So sometimes maybe you want to steal a caller that just came in, even though it matches someone else perfectly, because you want to match it with someone who's been waiting for a long time, right? So it's kind of this thing where it's no longer clear, right? So here's some trick questions that illustrate that point a little better, right? So you have 2 level 7 users who match instantly at the expense of a level 9 user who's been waiting a while and may not see a close match ever, or soon, but maybe they'll hang up the phone before they get there because they've been on for a long time, right? Or you have the level 9 steal one of the level 7 newcomers leaving one of the other level 7 user to wait, but also causing a mismatch in skill between the level 9 and the level 7, and an uncertain future for the remaining level 7. So it's like, which is better here? And the trick answer is that it's not clear at all, right? I have no idea. Maybe you could run simulations and try to measure how good these strategies work, right? But there's no way for me to reason through it, right? So I came up with kind of what I think is a good compromise. So you essentially, this is the implementation on this side. It's quite long and a little bit hairy, but just on an abstract level, basically you group people into bins. Within each bin, you sort by wait duration. So the people at the top have been waiting the longest within that skill level, right? And then for each bin, you attempt to pop off as many pairs of users as you can. And because you can only either have an even or an odd number, at the end you end up with bins that either have 1 person in it or 0 people in it. And then based on how long a user has been waiting, you can relax the matching criteria, right? So at first, you need to have an exact match with the skill level, and then later on, you can have plus or minus 1, and then if you've waited for a certain amount of time, I think it's 90 seconds, you can match with all skill levels, right? And so you will match with anyone who's available. And this seems to work pretty well. Well, I hope. And it also runs in the nlogn, which is nice. So the big question is this a good algorithm? Is this a good product? I don't know yet. I only own 1 phone, and I only have 1 Google Voice account, and so I can only test it with 2 phone numbers calling in, which is the bare minimum needed to test that it works at all, right? And so I'd like you guys to tell me, this is the phone number. This is the way it works. If you call that number right now, you'll be matched with each other. And I'd like to see how this works, and I'll pull up the logs on the server. I really want you guys to do this. There's no hidden charges. There's nothing going on. Here we go. Okay, yeah, I got it all hooked up. So yeah, we'll see as people begin to call in, hopefully. Oh, I'm sorry about that. You're right. 224-545-5222. All right, so we have a couple of people calling in. You enter it in as it guides you through when you're talking on the phone, right? There's a keypad and you type in your answer. So yeah, I've got a 7, a 5. Of course, these are all anonymous. So hopefully people are being paired up. It looks like it. It seems so that as people drop out, maybe you could say hi, see if you've been put on hold. You hear hold music and then you hear silence. That means you're talking to a person, right? So yeah, as it grows and shrinks, it means more people are calling in, and then more people have been paired with other people, and they're kicked out, right? So. So that's good. We got a pair over here. Hopefully it works for everyone. I mean, I wrote this last night, so it'll probably break at some point in some way. But it's exciting to test it on stage. And yeah, that's all I have to share. Hopefully you can relieve your technical stress with TechBuddy in the future.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Brad.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions for Will, please? Okay. No, not yet. Let me get there. Okay.
So good work and entertaining too. So your matching algorithm is just number to number, or are you thinking of more?
Right. Well, I mean, we could do something more sophisticated, right? This is just for a hackathon. You could imagine. So right now, just to clarify, yes, the only thing that is the matching criteria is the number, right? That's the only thing you compare between 2 people. But you also are conscious of the fact that some people have waited longer. So you record the time that the call is initialized, and then sometime in the future you can measure what's the time now, and you can see how long they've waited. You know. But right, like you could imagine, maybe I'd want to match people up geographically so that maybe they can hang out if they like each other or something, right? You could select that, or maybe you could say, maybe you could say I'm only interested in like I'm only interested in this type of engineer, or I'm only interested in someone who has experience with this framework or something, right? But the limited way that you can interact with the system through the keypad kind of makes that a little difficult, right? But it's certainly a possibility for the future.
What language did you put this in? Did you do this in?
Yeah, I totally forgot to talk about that in the slides. You're right. This is built on Node.js, and it's basically like a simple web server that just responds to requests. I like Node.js because I can write in JavaScript, and it's fairly performant for something that's so flexible and so easy to quickly create something. If I had tried to write this in any other language, in my estimation, I wouldn't have been able to write it in time for the hackathon, and I definitely wouldn't have something to show here, right? Yeah. Node.js is a runtime engine that you write JavaScript, and then it gives you the capabilities to run a server that's controlled by that JavaScript, right?
Okay, this will be okay. Final question, I'm afraid, because we need to.
This is the project that we were working on at the hackathon that you didn't have time to finish using the API from Days.
Yeah, exactly.
So did you end up using that same API? You had to do something else. Because
Right.
the one they had on the I guess wasn't supported at the time. Where you sort of went down a rabbit hole on that. So,
Yeah.
So tell me what happened from there.
Okay. Yeah, I was a little bit frustrated because at the hackathon I had discovered some, as far as I understand it, maybe I'm incorrect, but I had discovered some functionality that was documented but not implemented. So you can send stuff to this URL, but then nothing happens, and that was like my whole thing depended on. So then it broke on stage, right? So that was it was a tragic experience. But then I went home and I was like, okay, well, how would I do this without that endpoint? You have to change the entire thing, and so you just rebuild the whole thing. But now it's kind of more like idiomatic structure, right? Because I was coming out, I was kind of trying to like put the square peg in the round hole of like how I would imagine it works, right? But then I don't really look at how these applications are usually structured using this sort of technology, right? And now I think it's more stable because of it, and now it actually works. So, sorry. Oh yeah, I used the API Days VoIP innovations, right? Voice over IP innovations. Yeah, that's the API that I used. I think you could use many APIs that do something similar to this, but that's what I happened to use. They were at the event, and it works really well. It's super stable. The audio quality is good. If you're interested in that sort of thing, I would check them out.
Excellent. Because of the sake of time, again, I'll just have to cut the questions here. But again, well done. A round of applause, please.
Thank you.
It's one of those services where I could imagine some of the people in the room using it. Moving on to Scamdrop, guys. If you could get yourselves set up. I assume you want the mic, given how you like to wander around. Wandering off camera shot, and you're like trying to sort of pull them back.
Ooh, that's going to be hard to follow up. That was a really good presentation, my dude. All right. Oh, yeah. It's there in there. So we got this. Great. So, okay. I guess.
Yeah, you can stand by there and switch.
All right. Hi, guys. We are Scamdrop. So our main goal or our business that we built at this hackathon was to help businesses with a large call volume, to help them prevent frauds, make their operations more efficient, and have them help them grow their business in a more sustainable and profitable way. With that, let's get into the meat of it. We're gonna introduce. All right. So this is our problem statement. So fraud prediction and dropping is really important for call centers and large call volume businesses these days, especially with the number of scams going around with both incoming and outgoing calls. So that is a major reason why large corporations lose a lot of money on their day-to-day operations, especially when you take a look at it like Amazon. On a day-to-day basis, they have so many customer service calls that it's hard for the customer service reps to identify which ones are fraudulent and which ones are genuine. And what they do most of the time is they just end up like replacing it as long as it's within a given set volume, like $100 or $200. They just send the refunds, and that makes the business lose a lot of money over time. Now, when you can also take a look at it from another corporation perspective, like the banks. When they make these collection calls to a lot of these places, sometimes these calls get routed to known fraudulent numbers or like a suspicious numbers, but the call center employees are not aware of that. So hence, they end up wasting a lot of time making these really expensive calls that makes the business spend all their budget on these incoming and outgoing calls, and hence, again, leading to loss of time, loss of efficiency, and most importantly, loss in profits. With that, I'm used to entering this. Okay. As a basic idea, so from 2015 to 2016, there was a 113% increase in call center fraud. VoIP methods, we found out, were 45% of these fraudulent calls. That's why we're here to help solve that issue. Now.
All right, so the way we're doing, so basically we're trying to prevent fraud, and we do that by real-time tracking. We're optimizing and analyzing the calls in real time. We do that based on looking at the destination as one of the factors, the destination of where a call is going and where it's coming from. So we're predicting we're predicting with that. And also, after a call is dropped, we do have a post-call recovery system that we plan to implement so that a call can be recovered afterwards. So the type of data analysis that we're doing is we actually have a machine learning model in the back end that looks at the past data and attempts to figure out which call should be dropped. The machine learning model, we're actually using a decision tree classifier. So I'm going to quickly show you the demonstration. So here we go. So here's our front end. You can essentially think of it as like an admin panel for the current calls. So this chart would represent the calls that are being dropped, the calls that have been dropped, and these are some statistics that we would show. But the main part is over here. So what we have is we use SIMWOOD's API, and basically we have a node where when a phone call is made to the call center, it'll show up over here. So in the demonstration, what you'll see is I'll call the number. It'll come up over here as an incoming, and then outgoing to pose number. So I'll quickly show you really quick. And what will happen here is, for demonstration purposes, we just had it set up to drop the call after 5 seconds, but it would ideally actually look at the data. So here we go. So you can see right now, the call showed up right there. Now he's answered it. 5 seconds should elapse, and it should drop it immediately. And you can. And you can see at the very top with the timestamp, it is that call. And we also can drop the call manually from the panel. Okay, so this time don't answer immediately. Okay, go ahead and answer. And there it is. It went almost immediately and happens in real time. So what we use is our backend is written using Node.js. Actually, we use Express.js, which is a module from Node. And also, what happens when we receive an incoming call, we take it to another backend written in Python, where we can actually use the machine learning model, because it's much easier in Python to work with the algorithms, the machine learning algorithms. Another problem that I wanted to just talk about was that there are times when call centers are compromised, in which the call center, like maybe some hacker has control of it, and they want to send lots of outgoing phone calls to expensive destinations or whatever it be. So this is a great solution to that problem. Okay, we're going to continue on with the presentation. Oh, okay.
All right, now that we've seen the tech behind all of this, let me just take you through a little use case scenario in a real life example. So let's say in this scenario, I'm playing the role of a call center employee at Chase Bank. My role is to both do incoming calls and outgoing calls. And in this scenario, I found out, like, I get a call one fine day, and this customer keeps giving me inconsistent information. But as a customer service employee, I have a feeling that this is a fraudulent call, and this is wasting my time. But most of the times, most customers, as most customer service agents are trained to do, we go along with these calls to waste like around 5, 10, 15 minutes of time, at the end transferring it to another department that will then determine again whether it's a fraud or not. But with this, with the help of Scamdrop, the system, the backend system will be able to determine the early factors and would give me a display saying, hey, the number is from a very suspicious area. The number belongs to a known scam database. Maybe you want to drop this call and move on. Then that would immediately help me make a faster decision, thereby optimizing my performance and the business's performance over the period of time. Now again, let's look at a second case scenario where I have to make calls to customers. And I have to call them up, I have to ask them, update them on their daily bank statements, or like I have to call them on their pending loan payments and loan situation. At that time, it is, as a customer service agent, the only numbers that I will have access to are the ones the customers have provided. In this case, when I'm making a call and the call has been forwarded to another number, in that case, it'll be hard for me to know whether this is a call that is real or not, simply because there could be other third-party involvements in that scenario after the call has been placed. So with the help of Scamdrop, since Scamdrop will be working and analyzing and pulling data from the call in real time, if the call is rerouted to another number or another destination, Scamdrop will immediately check through known databases and identify known factors of fraudulent calls, or when these calls are too expensive, and then it would alert me so that I'd be able to drop it and move on to a more optimal call to help customers and serve the business in a better way. So those are two use cases. Now with that, I'd like to introduce my team, without which this project would be impossible to bring up. Of course, Michael, our developer, senior developer in charge. Rebecca was the one who helped put together the tables, the back end. Urii and Kim, who helped put together the front end.
Yes.
And of course, my team that helped me with this pitch, Madly, Noel, and of course, myself. All right, with that, thank you guys, and let's go on to our, so that's us.
So are there any other questions?
Yep, just hang on a sec. Tom. Yeah, just speak on that.
Thank you. Just quick question. What's the features that you use to train your model?
So mainly, we are looking at the call duration, the charge time, the charge amount. So if a call is expensive, we look at how much the call is costing, and the destination. So typically, when you're looking at the past calls in from a call center, they will be, a lot of them in a similar area, or we also look at the frequency. So one of the features is frequency of the calls. So all those features are looked at when we train the model.
Oh, yeah. Do you examine performance like false positive, false negative?
Can you repeat the question?
Do you examine the performance of the detection like false positive and the false negative?
So we were unable to do that because we didn't have a real data set to work with, since we don't have a call center's data. So what we did was we generated a data set. One of our, actually, Rebecca generated a data set so that we could train our model on. So it's flawed, but if we were given a real data set, we could check that.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, just to add that if anyone of you will be willing to sponsor us and get us the real call center data, maybe we can help you guys stop scams too.
Excellent.
Next question, question from the genius.
Sorry, someone else can ask. My question was answered. My question was
what was the data set? Where did you guys get the data set to train the model, right?
But he's answered. And we've got a question here at the front, Tom. No, just hang a sec so they can hear you on the live stream.
That's all right. So when can I get this on my phone for robocalls?
Sorry. Oh, robocalls? Well, of course, there are two ways to do it. One, you can fund us to help us build this. And the second one is once we've actually built it, you can pay $5 to download Scamdrop on your phone to do it.
Excellent. Again, thank you so much, guys. Well done.
Thank you.
Now, just a quick check. Do we have any other of the Chicago winners here that want to do a pitch? If not, what I'd like to do is Simon. Simon, this is his first time sponsoring TADHack Global, so maybe you could say just a few words while I get set up about your experiences.
Hi, folks. Yeah, this is a bit ad hoc and unscripted, but I'm from Simwood, and this was our first year as global sponsor of TADHack. I'm here in Chicago, which I gather is where the sponsors hang out, but we had guys in Johannesburg, Berlin, and London as well. So to call it a baptism of fire would be a bit of an understatement. The locusts began descending on kind of Friday night, ripping our API to pieces and having extensive feature requests. But that really gathered a pace when London and Johannesburg woke up Saturday morning. So two of my guys on the ground in Joburg pulled 38 hours straight and then went for a beer. So I was kind of proud of them. But it was so useful for us to get a level of user testing of the product that you would wait years to get in the real world. Having hundreds of people that know where they want to go, but are brand new to your service offering and your API, is really useful, because most normal customers are familiar with what you do and they can navigate their way around some of your eccentricities. We're really impressed by the volume of hacks that we're using Simwood. That was gratifying, but also some of the really cool things that they did. Scamdrop was heavily Simwood. We love that over here in Chicago. The global winner was actually the Berlin solution, where they listened to everything I'd said in the video pitch about I wanted something that enhanced end-user privacy and security, and they built something that enhanced end-user privacy and security with a two-way calling and messaging capability where neither party knew each other's real number, and either party could kind of kill the relationship just in a simple text message. So that was really cool, but all of them were really impressive considering the time that they had to invest in their hacks and their familiarity with us out the door. So well done and thank you to everyone, and well done and thank you to Alan for having us. Is that enough? Is that getting
that's
going?
fine. That is perfect. Excellent. Thank you, Simon. So we're going to show one more hack from Chicago. It's the high school team, Utenz. Now, they really did want to come. Unfortunately, they prioritized their SATs tomorrow above us. I'm sorry. But, I do understand it. They were like on the fence, but then they got home and I think their parents told them no. So what we're going to see is a quick video of their pitch. The audio is a bit low, so just try to be quiet, and I'll turn up the volume over there as well. But again, a group of high school students that put together something that ended up being the hSenid mobile winner, because they built this hack on their eCPAS capabilities. So again, well done, guys.
Hi, I'm Pavan. I'm Ryan. I'm Vishal. I'm Zheng. And our app is Utenz. By utilizing similar SMS APIs for client-to-client messaging, VoIP score feature to ensure a safe client-to-client connection and set a mobile for a recommendation system. We have created an app that fully integrates these parts into a cohesive diagram. Our inspiration for the app came from one of our English teachers in past years, Mr. Weaver. Last year, during an assembly, Mr. Weaver talked about how health was so important and how his negligence almost led him to die in a fatal attack. We took this advice and ran with the idea of promoting physical health and dieting. The main feature of our app stems from taking a picture of food using the Clarify API, and which will try to guess what the food is based on the picture. And then it'll confirm with the user whether the food is indeed what the API thought it was. Once the user has confirmed what the food is, we will present the nutrition facts for one serving size of that food using the NutritionX API, which is stored in Firebase. Using these nutritional facts, we also managed to incorporate another feature called the Utenz score.
In our app, the Utenz score allows for the user to see how healthy his or her diet currently is. To calculate the score, we use an algorithm that puts the essential parts of a diet, such as the fat, sodium, carbs, protein, and calories, and reference that to the recommended daily intake. This user score is very low because there's only one food in the database, and it is not representative of a day's worth of eating. But just imagine if this was a day's worth of eating. A score this low would correspond to a very unhealthy diet. A score from 60 to 75 would be moderately unhealthy, 75 to 90 would be moderately healthy, and 90 to 100 would be a very healthy diet. By utilizing the Utenz score, we not only allow for the user to see how healthy his or her diet is, but also allow for the user to plan his or her next step on the diet.
Along with dieting and keeping healthy, we also had another goal in mind, to connect people together. The list you see here is determined based on your food interests. Our matching algorithm takes your food interests and matches it with users that have similar food interests. Along with the matching algorithm, TeleSign score feature was also used to read out matches and help sustain connection safely. Once the user signs up, their phone number will be run through the TeleSign test to get a corresponding score. If their number validates the user to be unsafe, then Utenz will not allow them to communicate with other people. Finally, to start the interaction between users, we use SIMWA's API SMS feature, enabling the sending of an interest message from one user to the other with a click of a button.
Along with our ideas of connection and health, we have a feature that recommends users certain restaurants and recipes. We use an API called Spoonactor, and it purchases through our database, and it will recommend our users with restaurants and recipes. We also use this feature to also link our users with other intended users. So as you can see in our second slide here, this is kind of mobile. We use their feature to link user feature to contact server, and through a recommendation system, the user can also request for changes, and the user can request the app for changes using this feature. And also our main SMS feature, our main communication feature is voice SMS API. And whenever, for example, users can store changes or they recommend a new user through our connections, VoIP will send them an SMS, and they will notify them of these changes.
Through SIMWA's SMS API, we managed to connect to user-to-user messaging. Through VoIP innovation, with a server-to-client messaging. Using TeleSign score, we ensured safety between connections, and Send Mobile, we created a recommendation system. And thanks to Mr. Weaver's speech, we find that we truly recognize the importance of healthy living and diet.
Thank you.
Okay, before it plays on to the next one. There we go. Okay, and remember, high school kids. So that was excellent from them, but unfortunately SATs got in the way. So let me just now open up. I don't know where to put. Oh, here it is. So let me give you just a few minutes of the big picture of everything that took place with TADHack Global, and then we'll wrap up with another pitch from Belgrade, which was a new location for this year. So this will just run through the winners. Of course, we must, it helps when you turn the flicker on. There we go. So got to thank the sponsors for making this possible. So that's Simwood, TeleSign, VoIP Innovations, and their CPaaS API Days. But that's not all. There's all our partners around the world that are running locations and helping us promote what they're doing, of course. The Real-Time Communications Lab, that's Carol, Cluster Creatic, who've run Popping App for many years now, and of course, MTN over in South Africa, which was by far our biggest location. What makes TADHack different is diversity. This isn't a group of open source geeks getting together and talking about how great they are and how great the platforms are and how the world doesn't understand them. Okay? This is a whole group of people getting out there and playing around, knocking the tires. It's that diversity that creates the solutions that become commercially viable. It's open. We don't care. I mean, telecoms is our roots, but we've had Status, which is an Ethereum OS, is one of the sponsors, and that's complex. That's not an easy hack at all. And we had some really impressive hacks created. We had Carrefour. They just provided a data set and basically said to the hackers, knock yourself out, do whatever you like on top of that. So again, we try to bring as many different sponsors together we can, but of course, telecoms, because it's fundamental to the human condition, and of course, is the most important technology known to mankind for everybody in this room. And it's challenging, because we don't say, most of the Bay Area brands go, they have a hackathon, and here's the test. It's a challenge. It's not really a challenge. It's basically follow these steps, use our API, woohoo. That's great, but it's not really changing the world. It's not doing something that's inspiring people. What we do is we ask people to think about problems in their communities, in their home, in their work life, and look at how these technologies can help solve those problems. We've had tens of companies founded, hundreds of people have been able to use the hacks to help them get great jobs. For some, their dream jobs. So again, it's hard at TADHack, but it really does make a difference. And here from day one is some of the pictures. As you can see, we had some middle schoolers taking part. And then we have day two. And just a shout out to Alicia, who runs our South African location. Then by the numbers, we had actually 580 hackers around the world taking part. 85 hacks created, but of course in some locations they have too many hacks to be able to do judging, so they have to go through several rounds of down selection. We ended up with about 50 hacks being recorded and over 130 hours of YouTube video created. And we did stress the new live streaming service, that's for certain. So let me quickly run through some of the winners. So Belgrade was a new location for us, so thanks to TeleSign for running that. You're going to hear from these guys at the end when I've done my little spiel on TADHack Global, so we'll finish off on their pitch. But there were several winners there. In Berlin, of course, they have to be drinking beer and eating sausage. Here's the Berlin team giving their pitch. It was only one team, okay? So TADHack has big locations, we have small locations. But guess what? The quality in some of the small locations is quite amazing. And a shout out to VO Networks and Automat for all their hard work in running that location. And you'll be Automat Berlin are running a session at TAD Summit EMEA in London in November on the 19th and 20th. On to the Chicago winners. You've heard from Scamdrop, so congratulations there with, of course, Carol and Warren, who make TADHack Chicago possible. Then, of course, the hSenid Mobile winners, because they were a local sponsor for TADHack Chicago, so thanks to hSenid Mobile. And, of course, there you go. They're watching one of the live streams. We really made a point this year of enforcing all locations run live streams, and it really creates a very community feel when you're busy hacking or you're coming in the morning on Sunday morning, and it's tough. It's 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and, people are hacking. But you're seeing all the stuff that's going on in Johannesburg or Belgrade or in Berlin to motivate you to get, going. And here are some of the pictures from Johannesburg. They had nearly 250 people involved. There's the winners for TADHack Johannesburg, but they have local sponsors as well. So it's a federated model we use for TADHack. And you can see all the local sponsors, all the local winners there. They even had a prize for the most active tweeter, and yes, she definitely was. Again, it's a great environment and a great vibe from South Africa. Year on year, they've been great. And just a shout out to Simwood for sending somebody down there. It's always been one of my sort of guilts in not physically being down there. I was trying to get down there this year, but just the cost of the ticket and the timing meant that doing that and getting back here to run TAD Summit Americas would just be too tight. London has been a location we've had for many years. And again, some great hacks that came out of there. And again, Simwood was well represented because they had somebody there at the event. And a shout out to Rob and Niall and Idea London for providing the facilities. Papaya, always a great location, producing great quality hacks on Simwood, TeleSign, and also there was a couple of hacks there on VoIP innovations. Cluster Creatic really acts as a hub across the whole of the region, but great quality hacks. Same with Netherlands. We had a couple of really good ones. Automaton won the VoIP Innovations Global Prize, so well done there. And Diana did a really sweet little hack. And just again, thanks to KPN, Speak Up, and Appiology for all their hard work in making that location. Quickly, onto the global winners. VoIP Innovations, as I mentioned, awarded the global prize. So the way we do it is a two-phase model. Locations have the winners at the end on the Sunday, okay? Which is, you've hacked away. You want to know, there's got to be some winners here. But then all the hacks get rounded up, and then basically I'm hassling, emailing, cajoling the global sponsors to get their judging done. And of course, they're distributed over a whole host of time zones. They've done 38, 39, 40 hours straight, and we're still hassling them to give us information. But we got there so that we can, as soon as possible on the Monday, announce these global winners. So you'll see Automaton. We also, the Utenz guys, also got a prize, which was nice. And TechBuddy, they didn't win on Sunday, but they did win on Monday. So now, well, you know who Dechen is now. So you can. There's no longer Where's Waldo. Moving on to the TeleSign winners. So again, Inbus was a great hack. They recognised the work at Papaya, which I think was spot on. And this is a geeky hack, okay? So this is Fight Fantasy by Steve Goodwin, which is an interactive fiction by SMS. You have to see the pitch, but it really is a geeks hack. And wrapping up on Simwood, of course, Simon already mentioned the Berlin guys got a prize. They managed to, these guys didn't get through to the final, but they built up something that was quite impressive using Simwood's technology, so they were able to recognize that because they had people on the ground. And then Who Calls Me is great. Steve and Lily built up a node library for the Simwood API, which a lot of teams built on top of. So again, great to see that. And finally, Matt and Yini, husband and wife. In fact, we've had quite a few couples that have come in and through TADHack have ended up marrying. I guess if you can survive a hackathon without strangling each other, well, maybe there's something there. So, but again, they did an excellent hackathon and got recognition from Simwood. So that's it. Thank you to everybody who took part, and we'll see you again in October 2020. And I hope some of the people here in the audience can be global sponsors for TADHack Global 2020. Now, let me just wrap up with, okay, let me just disconnect this while my laptop gets its knickers out of a twist. And I will play the Inbus hack to wrap things up. Yeah, that's why. I closed it down, that's why. So just bear with me a minute. There you go, Belgrade pictures. Stop. There you go. I'm not going to play all of this because of time, but I just wanted to wrap up with what they achieved in Belgrade, which is the first time they'd run a TADHack in that location, which was great.
Okay, hello everyone. Our team name is Mahers, and his name is Stefan, his name is Luka, and my name is Andjelka. So, yeah, once upon a time, one of us was coming back from a holiday, and you know when you're in a bus and you fall asleep, for example, and you're coming back from a holiday and you don't know where you are, and you want to just send the SMS to your parents to pick you up when you come back from holiday, and you can skip or just pass your end location because you fall asleep and you didn't send that SMS message. Or for example, imagine yourself in a crowded bus just standing like that, and you cannot move your hands and you cannot pick your phone and SMS your friend and tell them that you're near that friend or that you're near your end location. So it would be awesome that your phone can locate yourself where you are and send that and trigger that service and send an SMS to the person that you want to send it. Or for example, you have a kid, or you're a kid yourself, and you're on an excursion, and you're just listening to the music in the bus, just coming back from the excursion during the night, and your parents don't know where you are, and you want to text them and tell them where you are and how far away you are from them, so they can pick you up, for example, or just so they can know where you are. So we just wanted to implement something that is simple for using, that is just on you have two buttons. It's simple. It's not so hard to implement, and it can be useful on a daily basis. So we just decided to use Android Studio. Of course, it can be done also for Apple products or iOS. We use the TeleSign API for SMS, for texting, and we use Google Maps API for locating yourself using your phone location in real time, and we use Java. So our app is based, so you can just use your app to put the phone number of the person that you want to text. That's the first thing. The second thing is to insert your message, and the third thing is to decide whether you want to use kilometers or minutes for your parameter. So what is that parameter? So for example, if you know that you want to text your father to come and pick you up if you're in a radius, for example, 3 kilometers near to your parents, you can just put, if I'm 3 kilometers far away from my parent, just send my parent a message so they can come and pick you up. So that's the first one. So that's the first option to use in this app. So it's a kilometers-based thing. Or on the other hand, if you don't want to think about, oh, maybe my father is working, so his job is 5 kilometers from my picking point, and then I need to think how far away I need to trigger that SMS. So you just don't want to think and make an approximation by your head. You just want to say, pick me up if I'm 50 minutes near you. So if I'm 50 minutes far away from my friend or my dad or my parents, just send them a message so they can pick you up. So you don't want to think about how far away you are. You just want to say, okay, 50 minutes is a time approximation. So in the background, our app can take your.
So just for the sake of time and to tease you, you can watch the rest of it on the TADHack YouTube channel. Just go to TADHack.com. In the top right-hand corner, you can watch basically the hundreds, we're getting close to 1,000 hacks that have been created since 2014. So thanks so much for your time, for seeing what we've been getting up to over this weekend. Bear in mind, this is just one weekend. 50 hacks that were created. We've got, if you believe in programmable telecoms, we've got to get the message out to a damn sight more people than us, and ideally younger people than us, if we want to basically, take advantage of the platforms and capabilities we're putting together. So that's what this is all about. So again, thank you so much, and on to your next sessions.